Hi everyone, today Lloyd announced its financial results for the first 6 months of 2022. I'm here with Burkhard Kieser, CFO and COO of Lloyd, to talk through the results in more detail. Burkhard, perhaps you could start by giving us an overview of the results that you're announcing today.
So if we start from the top, we have delivered another half year with really a sustainable underwriting result, and that in very uncertain times. We report a combined ratio of 91.4% and have a 1.2 billion underwriting profit, which increased again from last year's profitability, which was a little bit shy of £1 billion. On the investment side, we're now seeing the long-awaited interest rate shift, and we have recorded rate and yield increases of roughly 180 basis points, which will really boost our future investment profitability by over £1 billion per year. At the same time, however, it will create, or it has created, an accounting loss of 2.6 billion. It's just a revaluation and not a cash flow loss. This 2.6 billion will turn into profit over the next 2 to 3 years. So our capital position, again, even stronger than last year. Solvency II ratio stands at 395%, and that is so important to have this strong balance sheet to ensure resilience. We are maintaining our prudent reserving position, and the combination of both prudent reserving positions and a strong Solvency II balance sheet is what our customers need to have to be certain that we can protect them in times of uncertainty.
Thanks, Burkhard. Let's zoom in on some of the results. Can you tell us about some of the drivers behind the improved performance?
Yeah, happy to do this. The most important driver is always the price environment on the underwriting side in which we operate. So we recorded 7.7% price increases throughout the first half year of 2022, which is now the 19th consecutive quarter of price rises, which is utterly important. At the same time, we were able to grow our volume by 4.4%, and that gives overall, adjusted for Forex, 12.4% growth on GWP, which is an outstanding result, in particular when you deliver a combined ratio of 91.4%. The main drivers behind this are both the expense ratio and the attritional loss ratio. The attritional loss ratio now has probably found its natural level of roughly 48%. This is where we really want to have this, whereas the expense ratio is still too high, as I said earlier this year. But however, we reduced the expense ratio overall by nearly half a percentage points, and we are well on track to reach our 3-year target of a 4% reduction in expense ratio.
So you mentioned the investment result. If the underwriting result is so strong, why are you announcing a loss today?
That's a very good question, and I think the reason is quite easily explained. It is an accounting loss. I mentioned earlier, higher interest rates give us higher profits. These are the good news. At the same time, you need to book a revaluation adjustment in a modern mark-to-market P&L, and this revaluation adjustment amounts to 2.6 billion pounds. This is not a cash flow loss, this is just revaluation. This 2.6 billion will flow back to the P&L as a profit in the next 2 to 3 years.
You talked about capital and how this has been impacted by the conflict in Ukraine. How is Lloyd preparing for the conflict, and how does that affect today's results?
Well, Annie, it's always very difficult for me to speak about financial losses, because the biggest loss is the loss in life of this very sad war and unnecessary war in Ukraine. But in terms of financial losses, we at Lloyd adopt on major events always a very proactive approach, where we try to book as early as we can and recognize as early as we can the financial loss on major claims. We do this with a probability-weighted process, and we have booked, therefore, for Ukraine 1.1 billion of losses. Yeah, that is very similar to our procedures at COVID, where we booked over 3 billion in the first quarter when COVID appeared, and this balance sheet movement on COVID never really moved, and we're still maintaining a large amount of IBNR, which has not yet released in the P&L.
And how is Lloyd's preparing for inflation?
Well, that's the first time in 30 years nearly that we had to deal with an excess level of inflation. And the way how you do this is you really do diligent, detailed work on your claimant patterns over the past. So the market did this. Yeah, 65% of the syndicate reviewed their claims patterns and booked nearly $1 billion in allowance for inflation. Another 25% of the market, they reviewed this, but they haven't to book anything because they were reserved sufficiently. So overall, that process demonstrates once again our proactive reserving approach, and we took an early stand with booking $1 billion in our current financial statements.
Looking ahead, how do you see the next 6 months playing out? Are you optimistic or concerned?
Annie, I'm always optimistic, in particular if we have such good conditions both on our investment business and underwriting business. We have a solid price environment on the underwriting side, 19 consecutive quarters of price risings, and a good, robust rate environment of 180 basis points, which really boosts our profitability to a good level. At the same time, we are dealing in an environment with lots of uncertainty, political unrest, polarization, and we have to be cautious and nimble to navigate in these times. So we have to focus on price adequacy for inflation, and we have a very resilient balance sheet because of our strong capital position and reserving position, and we need to maintain this. So for me, it requires three things. Yeah, price adequacy, maintaining capital strength, and maintaining reserve strength. And I'm sure we will navigate fine through these uncertain times.